Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another long, cozy session of Fluento, Everyday English for Real Life. I'm Anna, and as always, I am really happy to be here with you today. I hope wherever you are listening from, your bus seat, your kitchen counter, your bedroom desk, or walking outside, that you feel relaxed and ready to learn with us.
And I'm David. Hi, everyone. I'm smiling already because I know today's episode is one of those topics that can actually transform someone's English if they really give it a try. We're talking about shadowing. And I know some of you have heard the term before, but today we're going to go deep. Not in a complicated way, don't worry, but in a natural, friendly, real-life way. Because shadowing isn't just an exercise, it's an experience. It's a way you can start feeling the language instead of just studying it.
I love the way you said that, feeling the language. That's exactly what it is. And for anyone who's brand new to the idea, shadowing simply means listening to a piece of English, maybe a podcast, maybe a short clip, maybe a sentence, and then speaking at the same time as the speaker. You shadow their voice like a shadow follows a person. It's not repeating after the audio, it's repeating with the audio, and this can be powerful.
And I know some people might feel nervous at first. It can feel a bit silly, right? The first time I tried shadowing, I was learning Spanish. I think I was maybe 19. And I remember whispering to the audio because I was scared someone in my house would hear me and think I'd lost my mind.
Oh, I love that mental image, a young David creeping around whispering Spanish sentences in the hallway.
Exactly. And I wasn't even doing it well. I was stumbling over every other word. But I remember something important. Even though I sounded awkward, I could feel my mouth beginning to adjust. My tongue started copying the rhythm of the Spanish R. My breath matched the speed of the speaker. And after 10 or 15 minutes, I actually felt inside the language, like I wasn't thinking word by word. I was experiencing it.
That's one of the beautiful parts of shadowing. It almost forces your brain to step out of the translate everything habit. When you shadow, you don't have time to stop and translate, and I think that's why it can feel so refreshing, especially for learners who feel stuck.
Yes, the translate everything trap is like walking with your shoelaces tied together. You're moving, but slowly and painfully. Shadowing cuts that rope.
And before we get deeper into techniques and stories and the cultural sides of this, let me say to our listeners, don't pressure yourself. This is a long episode, and it's meant to be enjoyed. You don't need a notebook, you don't need to memorize every phrase. Just let us be your English friends for the next 2 hours, and enjoy the sound of the language as we talk.
Absolutely. Shadowing is something you feel your way through, not something you perfect. And Anna, maybe we can start by painting a picture, something very simple. For example, imagine one of our listeners is at home in the evening. The room is quiet. Maybe they're a bit tired from work or school. They put on a short clip of someone speaking English, maybe 10 seconds. They listen once without doing anything, just listening. Then they hit replay, and this time they try to say the words at the same time as the speaker.
They might feel nervous. They might laugh at themselves.
They will definitely laugh at themselves.
100%. But that's okay. They're already learning. Because the magic is in that moment where your voice tries to match someone else's rhythm, and your brain suddenly pays attention to details you never noticed before, like the way native speakers connect words together. What are you doing becomes, what are you doing? It flows. It's not each word pronounced separately.
You know what that reminds me of? Growing up, my grandmother spoke very proper, very formal English, slow, clear, and every word separated. But the rest of my family spoke more casually, quickly, with connected sounds. So when learners say, English sounds too fast, I always think, yes, it does sound fast when you only learned the dictionary pronunciation, not the real-life one.
And shadowing lets you hear and imitate the real-life one in a natural way. You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to think, is this a weak form of the word? Is this a reduced vowel? Is this a flap T? No, you just hear it, your mouth copies it, and slowly your brain learns the pattern without you needing to know the linguistic terminology.
And that's the beauty. Shadowing is one of those rare techniques where you learn without actively thinking. It's like when kids learn their first language. They repeat what they hear, they mimic, they experiment, and one day they suddenly say something perfectly without knowing why it's correct.
Exactly, and that why can come later. But let's talk about something real and human. David, do you remember the first time shadowing made you feel, what's the word, powerful? Like, wow, I'm actually speaking this language.
Oh, yes, and it was such a small sentence, too. I was shadowing a Spanish news clip, and they said something like, "Vamos a ver qué pasa," which means, let's see what happens. And for some reason, everything flowed in one breath. I didn't pause, I didn't stumble, I didn't overthink. It came out smooth, like I'd been saying it forever. And I got this rush of confidence, like, whoa, I can do this.
That moment is everything. For English learners, I think it often happens with short expressions like, here we go, or I got you, or take your time. Once you shadow those naturally, it feels like you're suddenly part of the language.
It becomes yours, not something you're borrowing.
Yes, and I want our listeners to feel that. But let's talk about what shadowing is not, because I think this is just as important. Shadowing is not reading subtitles out loud quickly. It's not memorizing. It's not forcing yourself to be perfect. And it's definitely not a test. It's more like, how would you describe it, David?
I'd say it's like dancing. When you first dance with someone who knows the steps, you try to follow. You step on their foot sometimes, you trip, you apologize, you laugh. But slowly your body learns, and suddenly you're moving together. That's shadowing.
I love that analogy. And like dancing, it's okay if you feel awkward at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
You know, it's interesting. Some learners say they feel embarrassed to shadow, even if they're alone at home. And I completely understand that feeling. But that embarrassment is actually a sign that your brain is stepping outside its comfort zone, where real growth happens.
Absolutely. And here's something comforting. No one sounds good in the beginning. Not a single person. I don't sound good when I shadow a new language the first time. David doesn't. You listening right now won't. And it doesn't matter, because sounding awkward is part of learning.
It's a badge of honor. It means you're trying.
Let's imagine someone listening right now wants to start shadowing today. They don't know what to shadow. They don't know how long they should do it. They're maybe holding their phone thinking, should I try this? Will it work for me?
To that person, I'd say take something short, even one sentence, even 5 seconds. Something like, it's a beautiful day today. Something simple. Play it once, then play it again and whisper it at the same time. Then a third time, say it a little louder. And if you laugh or mess up, perfect, you're learning.
And the beautiful thing about shadowing is that even 10 minutes can make a difference. It's like brushing your teeth. A little bit every day keeps everything clean and strong. 10 minutes of shadowing is better than an hour of passive listening.
That's so true. But Anna, I also want to talk about the cultural side, because English isn't only about words or grammar, it's also how people use their voice. In English, intonation, the music of the sentence, carries meaning. For example, in English, we raise our voice a little at the end of a yes or no question, like, are you ready? But for a what question, we usually drop our voice. Where are you going? Shadowing teaches this naturally.
Yes, and you don't have to memorize rules. Your brain just starts copying the music of English. A lot of learners say they want to sound natural. Shadowing is one of the fastest ways to get there.
And something I love is that shadowing exposes you to different accents. So you can shadow an American speaker one day, a British speaker the next, maybe an Australian or Canadian speaker later, and your ear becomes flexible. Your pronunciation becomes richer.
Let me tell you a funny story. When I was younger, maybe 22, I spent some time in London, and I shadowed British speakers every day, podcasts, videos, street interviews, and after a while, my friends back home said, "Why do you sound a little British?" And I didn't even notice. I wasn't trying to change my accent. I was just absorbing the rhythm around me.
Oh, I totally believe that. Language is contagious. If you live somewhere long enough or shadow someone enough, the rhythm gets into your bones.
And for English learners, that means you can start sounding more natural without forcing it, just by shadowing.
Speaking of rhythm, one of the biggest surprises learners experience is how much native speakers stretch or shrink certain words. For example, the phrase, "I don't know," often becomes, "I don't know." And "I'm going to" becomes "I'm gonna." Shadowing helps you recognize these naturally.
And more importantly, it helps you understand them when other people speak. A lot of learners tell me I can read English, I can understand slow English, but fast English? No way. And the reason is not vocabulary, it's rhythm, it's sound connection. Shadowing solves that.
You know, Anna, I want to talk about something emotional here. Many learners feel disconnected from English. They feel like there's this wall between them and the language. They feel like native speakers are far away from them. And shadowing, more than many other techniques, breaks that wall. Because when you shadow, you're literally speaking with a native speaker, breath for breath.
That's a beautiful thought, David. Yes, it feels like you're having a private conversation with the speaker, even if you're not talking to them, even if they can't hear you. It's intimate in a way. You're sharing their voice, their rhythm, their emotion.
Exactly. And for some learners, that moment where your voice matches someone else's can feel healing, like you're finally part of something bigger.
Let's go deeper into the emotional side. Learning a language is vulnerable. You feel exposed. You feel imperfect. You worry people will judge your accent or mistakes. Shadowing is a safe practice space. Just you and your audio. No judgment, no pressure.
And that privacy lets you experiment. You can exaggerate your intonation. You can stretch your vowels. You can try sounding enthusiastic or calm or curious. You can try copying a character from a movie or a storyteller from a podcast. And all of that improves your speaking muscles.
Exactly. Shadowing is like language gym. You may not love every second. Some days you're tired, some days you don't want to do it. But if you show up regularly, you get stronger.
And the stronger you get, the more confident you feel in real conversations. You stop freezing when someone speaks to you. You stop worrying about every mistake. You stop thinking, "What if I sound stupid?" Instead, you think, "I've practiced this. I can do it."
Should we give a little mini demonstration?
Sure, let's do something simple. Say a short sentence and I'll try to shadow you. Not perfectly, just naturally.
Okay, how about this one? Shadowing helps you speak English with confidence.
Shadowing helps you speak English with confidence.
That was really nice, and you didn't wait until I finished.
Exactly, and I want our listeners to hear that. Shadowing is not waiting, it's following at the same time. And even if I was a little late on one or two words, that's totally fine.
I want to talk about another benefit, listening. When learners shadow, they're forced to pay attention to every little sound, and this makes their listening comprehension improve naturally. You don't have to do listening drills. You don't have to force yourself to concentrate. You're already concentrating because you're trying to keep up.
And one thing I learned the hard way is don't try to shadow audio that is too hard. I made that mistake in French. I tried to shadow a super fast French radio show, and after 10 minutes, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck.
Yes, start simple, short phrases, short conversations, slow podcasts for learners. Build up gradually. You don't start your first day at the gym by lifting the heaviest weight.
Unless you want to break something.
Exactly, and we don't want that. But once you grow stronger, you can try faster speech, more natural clips, movie dialogue, and when you do, you'll surprise yourself.
And one of my favorite things is shadowing my own recorded voice, not in a narcissistic way, but because it helps me compare. When I record myself shadowing and listen back, I often think, I didn't connect those words smoothly, or, oh, my intonation sounded robotic, and then I do it again.
Recordings don't lie. They show you exactly what you sound like. And most learners have never truly heard themselves speaking English, so the first time they record, they're shocked.
Oh, you should have seen my face when I first heard myself speaking Spanish. I thought, is that me? Do I really sound like that?
Everyone has that moment. But the good news is, once you hear yourself, you know exactly what to improve, and improvement begins.
I think we should talk about specific sounds in English that shadowing is great for. For example, the TH sound. Many learners struggle with it. It feels unnatural. But if you shadow a native speaker saying words like think, though, this, thought, your tongue starts learning where to go.
Yes, and the R sound too. English R is very different from other languages. Shadowing helps your mouth find the right shape without needing a teacher to explain it.
And let's talk about connected speech again. For example, the phrase want to often becomes wanna. Learners read it as want to, but when they hear wanna, they panic. Shadowing trains your ear to recognize both forms.
And forms like gotta, kinda, and sorta, they're everywhere in everyday speech. Shadowing introduces you to them naturally.
Anna, you know what this makes me think of? Sometimes learners say, I understand my teacher, but I don't understand people in real life. And the reason is that classroom English is clean and clear. Real English is messy and fast and full of reductions. Shadowing exposes you to real English safely.
Yes, and you can repeat real English as many times as you need. No real conversation partner will repeat themselves 20 times without getting frustrated, but your audio will.
I've repeated a single sentence in another language maybe 50 times. No human would have the patience for that. But shadowing, no problem.
And it's empowering. It teaches you that improvement is in your hands, not someone else's.
Speaking of empowerment, we should talk about how shadowing helps your confidence. Something magical happens when you shadow regularly. You stop feeling like English is a foreign object outside of you. It becomes part of you. It becomes familiar.
Yes, and you start noticing progress in small ways. Maybe you understand a movie scene you didn't before. Maybe you don't panic in a conversation. Maybe someone says, your pronunciation is good, and you think, wait, really? And all of that strengthens your confidence.
And confidence is what makes people speak, and speaking is what makes people fluent. It's a chain reaction.
And shadowing is the first link in that chain.
You know, Anna, I think this is a good moment to share a personal story. You know how much I love stories.
Yes, you are definitely the storyteller of Fluento.
A few years ago, I was studying Italian. I'd taken a few classes, watched some videos, learned basic grammar, but when I tried to speak, it felt like rocks in my mouth. Heavy, clumsy, unnatural. And one day, I found a short Italian podcast episode, just a simple conversation. I shadowed it every day for a week, and after that week, something incredible happened. I went to a cafe with an Italian friend, and when I spoke Italian, my friend froze. And she said, David, what happened to you? And I thought, what do you mean? And she said, you sound so much smoother.
Oh, I love that.
And I realized in that moment, shadowing had changed my speaking. And not because I studied more grammar, not because I memorized vocabulary, but because I had absorbed the rhythm.
That's exactly what happens to learners of English too. And I want our listeners to imagine that moment for themselves, someone noticing their improvement.
It's the best feeling in the world.
But before we continue, let's take a moment to breathe. I want our listeners to unclench their shoulders, relax their jaw, soften their tongue. Sometimes when we learn, we get tense, but shadowing works best when your body is relaxed.
Yes, relax the jaw, very important. A tight jaw makes your pronunciation stiff. A relaxed jaw lets the sounds flow.
English has so many relaxed sounds, soft vowels, smooth transitions, looser mouth movements. If your jaw is too tight, everything becomes sharp and unnatural.
That's why shadowing helps, because you practice the physical feeling of speaking English.
I want to talk about something subtle but important, emotion. Shadowing isn't only copying pronunciation, it's copying emotion. English speakers express feeling through tone, excitement, surprise, curiosity, kindness, sarcasm. And when learners shadow, they start picking up these emotional layers too.
Like how English speakers say, really? With a rising tone to show surprise, or really? With a falling tone to show disappointment.
Exactly, and shadowing helps you practice those tones naturally.
It also teaches you the cultural rhythm of conversation, how Americans pause, how British speakers soften their tone at the end of sentences, how Canadians have a musical intonation, how Australians stretch vowels playfully.
Shadowing is cultural immersion without leaving your home.
And it's surprisingly fun once you get into it.
It is, and it's even more fun when you shadow something you like. A scene from your favorite show, a line from a movie you love, a speech that inspires you, a podcast host whose voice feels comforting to you.
Actually, that reminds me, some learners shadow us, Fluento. They tell us they shadow our voices to practice rhythm and speaking.
I love hearing that. And if anyone listening wants to shadow us, please do. Use our voices as tools. Repeat our sentences. Whisper with us. Speak with us. It makes us feel close to you in a beautiful way.
And don't worry about copying our voices too much. Over time, your own natural voice will emerge, but it will be stronger, more confident, and more fluent because of the practice.
Speaking of practice, let's paint another picture. Imagine a learner walking in a park with earbuds. They play a short sentence from a podcast, they whisper the shadow, then they say it again, quietly. They're moving, breathing, speaking with the rhythm. It becomes almost meditative.
Yes, shadowing can be a meditation, a moment of presence. You're not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, you're living inside the sound. It's grounding.
And healing. For many learners, English carries a lot of stress. Tests, exams, embarrassment. Shadowing turns learning into something soothing.
I wish more people could experience that.
Hopefully this episode helps.
I think so. You know, Anna, do you remember that listener from Turkey who wrote to us saying shadowing changed her life?
Yes, I remember her message. She said she used to be terrified of speaking English. She would freeze every time someone asked her a simple question like, "How are you?" But after 2 months of shadowing, she started having small conversations with coworkers, and people told her she sounded more confident.
And she said she cried the first time someone understood her without asking her to repeat herself.
Yes, that made me emotional. Shadowing helped her find her voice, and I hope it does the same for many of our listeners.
Let's talk about the idea of ego for a moment. Many adults struggle with language learning because they feel embarrassed to sound like beginners. But shadowing gives you a private, safe space. No one sees you practicing. No one judges you.
And that privacy lets you be playful. You can try sounding dramatic. You can exaggerate intonation. You can even pretend you're acting in a movie. And all of that makes your speaking more natural.
Because English isn't just spoken, it's performed.
Yes, English has a performative quality. Gestures, tone, rhythm, and shadowing helps you practice that performance.
Anna, can we talk about the idea of muscle memory? Because I think this is something many learners don't realize. Speaking is physical. There are muscles involved. Your tongue, lips, jaw, breath, all need training.
Yes, and shadowing is the gym for those muscles. And consistency creates muscle memory. After enough practice, you won't need to think about the sounds. Your body will remember them.
Like driving a car. At first, every movement feels forced, but after practice, everything becomes automatic.
Let's talk about the emotional challenges learners face when starting shadowing. Fear of sounding silly, fear of making mistakes, fear of not understanding.
Yes, And to anyone listening who feels this, you're not alone. Every learner feels this. Every native speaker learning another language feels this. I feel this. Anna feels this.
Absolutely. When I shadow French, I feel ridiculous, but I do it anyway.
And that's why you improve.
Yes, improvement happens not when you feel confident, but when you feel unsure and try anyway.
Beautifully said.
Let's talk about how long someone should shadow. Some people think they need to do an hour every day, but even 10 minutes can be powerful.
10 minutes of focused shadowing is like 10 minutes of good exercise. It builds endurance.
And the key is consistency. Shadowing 3 times a week is far better than doing a 2-hour marathon once a month.
Absolutely. The brain loves repetition, consistent repetition.
Let's create a little imaginary moment. A learner wakes up early in the morning. They make coffee. They sit near the window. There's soft light coming in. They turn on a short piece of audio and they shadow quietly while sipping their coffee. It becomes a ritual, a gentle, peaceful ritual.
I love that. And it makes learning feel warm and human, not stressful.
Yes, learning should feel like self-care, not punishment.
Another imaginary moment. Someone is cooking dinner, listening to a podcast. While chopping vegetables, they shadow short sentences, softly, almost singing with the speaker.
Yes, like background practice.
Or while folding laundry.
Or walking the dog.
Or waiting in line at the grocery store, although maybe quietly so people don't stare.
A tiny whisper is enough sometimes.
Let's talk about accents. Many learners worry about having an accent, but shadowing helps refine your accent naturally, not by forcing yourself to sound like a specific variety, but by smoothing out the rough edges.
And every accent is beautiful. The goal is clarity, not imitation.
Absolutely. You don't need to lose your accent, but you can soften it, polish it, make it more understandable.
And shadowing is a wonderful way to do that.
You know, Anna, something I've always admired about shadowing is that it creates a connection between you and the speaker, between your voice and the language.
Yes, it's intimate. You're literally speaking with someone.
And that connection removes fear. When you shadow someone for long enough, their voice becomes familiar. And in real conversations, English speakers feel less scary.
They feel like friends.
Exactly.
I want to talk about one more thing: identity. Some learners are afraid that speaking English will make them lose a part of who they are. But shadowing helps you add a new layer to your identity without losing the original.
Yes, language adds color. It doesn't replace anything.
And the more you shadow, the more comfortable you become expressing yourself in English, not as someone else, but as you.
That's something I want our listeners to really feel. You don't need to become a different person to speak English. You just need tools. And shadowing is one of the most powerful tools.
I think it's time to slowly bring today's episode toward the closing, but I want to leave our listeners with something meaningful. If you've never tried shadowing before, try it today. Just one sentence. Whisper it. Feel the rhythm. Don't judge yourself.
Yes, shadowing is not about perfection. It's about trying. It's about showing up. It's about letting the language flow through you.
And I want you to know something. You are capable of improving. You are capable of sounding natural. You are capable of growing. And you don't have to rush. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone.
You only need to take one small step, and that step can be a whispered sentence.
Exactly. And before we say goodbye, I want to thank everyone listening. You're here because you care about your learning. That already makes you strong. That already makes you dedicated. And we're proud of you.
So proud, really, and we're honored that you let us be part of your journey.
Thank you for spending this time with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us if you've tried shadowing. Tell us how it feels. Tell us what you struggle with. Tell us what you dream of. We always love reading your stories.
And remember, your English journey is not a race. It's an adventure, And shadowing is one of the most beautiful paths you can take.
Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and keep speaking, even if it's just to the audio in your headphones.
Until next time, friends, we'll be right here cheering for you.
Bye for now, and happy shadowing.
Bye, everyone.